Hiya! Welcome back to Britain's most exciting vlog. Now, before we get going today, I'd just like to put out an appeal. It's not for money, don't worry. You're doing really well. I've got lots of viewers every time I put one of these strange affairs out, and I really thank you all for your support. But it would be brilliant if those of you who haven't yet subscribed would also subscribe. It doesn't cost you a penny. And it means you get a notification every time I produce another of these masterpieces. And the way you do it, at the end of this video, you'll see a little thing in the corner, a little circle here with our faces on, and you just have to hit it. I mean, just think of the joy, hitting my face. And Richard's. Anyway, how are you? It's been a couple of days since I last vlogged about the lockdown situation, and you do begin to think that the government are not responding directly to my vlog. Obviously, I'm sure it's watched inside government with keen anticipation, but you do get the impression that the government realise they are going to very quickly have to square with the public about where we are and where we go from here. All of us will put up with whatever if it makes sense, but we should be treated like adults and we should be told what the plan is. The French did that a couple of weeks ago, and the French Prime Minister outlined much more of that in detail today to the French Parliament. And indeed, one of the things he said was, look, the lockdown I think ends on May the 11th, or the beginnings of the easing of the lockdown. He said, but that depends on the stats over the next 2 weeks. And if they change, then we will not ease anything. And that's fine. That's all we need to hear. Nobody wants false promises, but we do want to have some idea of the direction of travel. Anyway, enough of that. Enough of politics. Enough of lockdown. What's been happening with you? I've had a bit of a funny day today because I got up, decided to nosy out of the front window, because there's a man opposite who comes out and has a cup of soup and walks up and down in a very sort of prison-like way in a very small area every day, and we've become fascinated with him. Sometimes we call him Bachelor, sometimes we call him the Soup Dragon. Anyway, I went to have a nosy at him through the blinds, and lo and behold, my back went into a complete bloody spasm. Which once happened before. Some of my Scottish friends will recall it happened in my office at Strathclyde University. I did actually have an office once and teach in a university. It's hard to believe, I know. And it went into spasm. I fell to that. In fact, it was the time I was finishing Rude Britannia, the book, and I think I'd just spent far too long at my desk typing. Typing. And I went into spasm and screamed, and the nearby academics all thought I was having a heart attack, but actually I'd just got into seizure. Anyway, that happened to me this morning. Thankfully, Richard found some Valium and some Nurofen, and I spent the rest of the day high as a kite. My back is still pretty painful, but I am moving. You really wanted to know that, didn't you? Anyway, back to today's vlog. What's it all about, Alfie? You got to get the menu on the board. Well, today's vlog is what I promised you a few days ago when I cleared out one cupboard. I said I'd come back here and clear out my theatrical cupboard. So here we go, a little look back at my glittering showbiz career, and a few other things that I've discovered. They're all here on the sofa. First off, I discovered Diana Dawes' book, Only a Whisper Away. I've no idea why I got that. I also discovered The Effective Way to Stop Drinking. I've definitely no idea why I got that. I discovered this poster, which I'd forgotten I had, which is a show I directed called Grandmotherfucker, with a wonderful American lady in called Pat Candaris, American stand-up, who is fantastic. Still working, I think, in New York. She had an incredible story whereby her husband of many, many years had died, and I think in response to that, she started to shop rather obsessively. And in particular, she bought shoes. Some of this she talked about in the show. And I think she said she realised she had a problem when she walked out of Saks on Fifth Avenue at about 5 p.m. with another box of shoes. And the assistant said, "See you tomorrow, Miss Candaris." Anyway, she did escape her shoe problem, I think largely by turning to stand-up. So that was Pat. If you're out there, Pat, we love you. Hope you're still going. This is, and by going I mean performing. We know you're still going. You're definitely alive. This is the poster of the first ever play What I Wrote. Can you see it? Oh, Christ, my back. This was Harold's Day, which I wrote whilst at Hull University. It says here, it's a telling play excellently performed, The Scotsman, and it deserves bigger audiences, The Times. Well, they weren't kidding. This was the play I told you about an old man waiting to go on a mystery tour and the bus never came, so he talked to a papier-mâché tortoise. It may well be that this vlog is my papier-mâché tortoise and that my bus is never coming. But you know, I'm resigned to that these days. Here I found a cartoon from Private Eye of a show I directed called Puppetry of the Penis, in which naked Australians folded their cocks into shapes like the hot dog, the hamburger and the Eiffel Tower. The funniest bit of this, and this is a show that was 20 years ago, so it was well before problems hit the career of Rolf Harris. It says here, the interval, the most shocking part of the show, they played records by Rolf Harris. There you go. Do you know, I can't see a ruddy thing in these specs. I am going blind. Oh, that's a bit better. I was looking through the wrong bit. You see, I got these bifocals in Cambodia. 60 quid. Another bargain. Now, talking of bargains, that was a good segue. In this bag here, you see this bag here? Quite a large bag. In this bag here are 50 Egyptian bike seat covers. I mean, they look rather like a strange sort of panto hat, but actually they're beautiful bike seat covers, which on one of my annual trips to Egypt, which I used to do a lot until the flights became very difficult, etc., I decided that buying these bike seat covers was a really good idea because they were very cheap and I thought I could sell them on the Portobello Road. I've still got 50. If anybody wants them, I'll do them at £4 a pop, and I'll give 25%. No, 50%. Oh, fuck it. I'll give the whole lot to the NHS. Well, not to the NHS, but to one of the charities that look after people who've worked in the NHS and have lost their lives, etc. The NHS can fund itself. Here's a poster from Birmingham Rep, 1991. Brecht, V and Ennui, and I directed Antigone. Not very well, I have to say. And I remember one night Tony Harrison, the poet, came to see V, this production of V, his great poem, and I very nervously met him at stage door because I was a great Tony Harrison fan. Christ, my back's going. And I showed him to his theatre flat, which at those stages, as the theatre flats, I've turned into Ken Dodd. Very good documentary about him on telly last night. One of the theatre flats, and I showed him in, and I tried to ingratiate myself, and I said, there's some biscuits and there's some tea over there for you, Tony. And he went, aye, biscuits. I don't eat biscuits. He really did sound like his poems. Here's a lovely strip of photos I've found, or a contact sheet, or whatever you call them. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? There's a very young and beautiful looking me with the great Willy Russell when we taught one of our Arvon Foundation courses. We taught quite a lot of those over the years. We had great fun. In fact, we had so much fun that Willy stopped asking me to do them. Now, in truth, Willy went off to teach musical theatre ones, and I wasn't very good at that. There's Betty Bourne, Christmas season, Drill Hall, Resident Alien, 5th of December to the 12th of January. Do you remember that, when theatres actually opened and people went to them? That was a fun run. Can't even do fun runs now. This was a poster for the last bus from Bradford, which I did at the Drill Hall, which won the Pink Paper Play Award, and was directed by one Sean O'Connor, who up until quite recently was the executive producer of EastEnders, and a very good friend of mine, and a very, very nice man. And here is another Resident Alien poster, this time from Seattle, on the boards. This is 20 odd years ago, when myself and the genius that is Betty Bourne toured to Seattle. I'm trying not to find all the Resident Alien posters. There's quite a lot. And here is the lanyard and pass that I got from the Schaubühne Theatre in Berlin when I was, part of the European art circuit alongside Katie Mitchell and others. And this was when I performed Sex Addict at the Schaubühne. Can you imagine that? That was the show in which I went off and had sex with the audience. The audience chose who I'd have sex with, should I say, and I went off and had sex with either with the audience or with somebody they found on the internet out in Berlin. And I remember they put me up in a rather lovely artsy hotel, and it was run by Herr and Frau Schmidt. Of course it was. They were a very nice couple. And anyway, they got whiff that I was doing a show at the Schaubühne, and they said, "Oh, we'd love to come and see it." And I'm thinking, oh Christ, I cannot invite them because it was a bit outre. Anyway, they eventually badgered me into getting them a ticket, and lo and behold, I went out on the, I think, Wednesday night to perform to 800 people, and there on the front row were Herr and Frau Schmidt. And I started to then talk about, as I always did, the encounters I'd had on the previous evening. And the previous evening, the audience had chosen a man called Blowjobber for me to have sex with. The clue's in the title. And he wanted to have sex in the hotel lift, because it was a very ornate hotel lift. And I think, well, he was probably a bit of an exhibitionist. I've come across these sort of people. And anyway, as was the style of the show, I recorded this on video, not the graphic sex, but the fact that we did it. So I came out the next night in front of Herr and Frau Schmidt, and I started to describe how I'd had sex in the ornate Victorian wrought iron lift of their beautiful arts hotel, and I saw their faces drop. Anyway, I carried on with the show. The next morning at breakfast, I came down and I saw Herr Schmidt, and he said, "Tim, can I have a word with you?" And I thought, oh Christ, here we go, another hotel I'm going to get kicked out of. And he said, "We were very disappointed." I said, "I know, I'm sorry, I really went too far, as I often do." I said, I know I shouldn't have. He said, no, it was nothing to do with the sex. He said, "You didn't mention the name of the hotel." Can't please all the people all the time. Have a great day, everyone. See you soon.